What's up, Menlo Students? Welcome to week 3 of the new normal. It is such a joy to be with you. Thanks for joining us online. I hope that you are enjoying this journey through the book of Ephesians as much as I am. I hope it has been life-giving and transformative for you. Talk about, last week, chapter 2, I was feeling the conviction, all that talk about reconciliation from Paul. I feel like I'm on a spiritual triathlon. It's good, but boy, is it hard. And this week, as we get into chapter 3 of Ephesians, I was struck in verse 8 as Paul talked about feeling unqualified. Paul was speaking about feeling unqualified, and I was struck by that. Paul, the guy who wrote most of the New Testament, Paul, the guy who was dropping all those bars about reconciliation just one chapter ago, this guy feels unqualified. If this guy is feeling like he's not qualified, then I don't feel like I should be telling anyone about anything, let alone about Jesus, right? The source of life and the universe. But as I was reading through it, as I was reading Paul, I began to understand a little bit of what he was speaking about. As he shared feeling unqualified to give the message of the gospel to the Gentiles, I began to think about this job that I once had. It reminded me of a job that I once had working with teenagers who, for one reason or another, had been in trouble with the law and gone to jail, or some were wrapped up in some other type of criminal activity. And my job was to help these kids who'd had a really rough life up to this point get their lives back on track. And I remember feeling so unqualified, so inadequate, just not good enough for this job. Why would these kids listen to anything that I had to say about doing their homework or applying for part-time jobs or getting their applications ready for college, or listen to me talk about Jesus? I hadn't been through what they'd been through. I hadn't walked through what they'd walked through. I didn't have any understanding of what it took for them to overcome what they'd had to overcome, to be standing right there in front of me alive. So why would they listen to me about anything? But as much as Paul's conversation about feeling inadequate, feeling unqualified, man, I could relate to that. And I know maybe some of you could too. When God calls you to do something, feeling like, I don't think I can do this. As much as I could relate to that, I was also encouraged when Paul writes, but God saw to it that I was equipped. That was the most encouraging thing for me to read. Because it's through reading this and listening and understanding that while discouraging at first, hearing Paul say that he felt unqualified, it was comforting to hear him say, but it was not my natural abilities, but it was God's supernatural abilities working through me. And I could relate to that when I thought about that job. I could relate to that when I think about this whole last year of trying to do anything in COVID. And so that has been such an encouraging part of my reading of Ephesians 3. And my hope is that for us, that we learn that this is what Paul is talking about. This idea of saying yes to God, even though we know if God's not a part of it, there ain't no way it's happening. I can't do it. But being able to say yes to God and trusting that he will take care of the rest. That's something that I'm learning to do. Something that I'm learning to do in this new normal that we're all working through together. I'm learning to trust in God. Trust that he'll fix that broken relationship. Trust that he'll make that money appear for that payment for that thing that we need. Trust that God will heal that sickness in my family. And that all I have to do is that when God calls me into those places, to just say yes, to boldly say yes, and trust that God will do what God does. And that's what I want to invite all of you into as well. As we learn to live into this new life that we have in Jesus, being reminded that while we may feel inadequate, we may feel unqualified, God is the one who is equipping us and empowering us for the work that he wants us to do in the world. And so I invite you to boldly say yes to God. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for joining us.